Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sulabh.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Good
everyone.
morning.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hope everyone is good. Yes or no?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So last class we started with basic, right? We had a computer, you wanted to access the flipkart.com, and we understood what will happen in the background. So you understand that first thing you will take is you will take the internet connection, right? You understand about internet, what is internet communication from one network to another network, right? That we call as internet working, right? Full form of internet is internet working, right? So we understand that in the internet world, each and every computer will be identified by its unique address that we call as IP address, right? You understand static IP and dynamic IP. Understand the IP addresses are unique address. The IP address that is assigned to your computer, no computer across the world is using the same IP address, right? IP addresses are always unique IP address. Get I mean? We taking the example of Airtel. They have a lot of users. How they can manage the IP addressing, because IP addresses are not free. So Airtel has uses the concept of DHCP. They have done some kind of trend analysis and came to know not all the computers, all the users are accessing the internet at the same time, and they plan to reutilize the IP address using DHCP server, right? Dynamic host configuration protocol. Dynamically, DHCP server can assign the IP address to your computer, right? As well as your computer will release the IP address once you disconnect from the network. Get it? And can be reassigned to some other computer. Get it? That is DHCP, and that is the concept of, we understand there are two type of IP address, dynamic and static. Static IP address you have to buy, you have to pay extra money for that, right? And it will remain configure, or you can use that particular IP address till the time you have paid for. Either you have bought it permanently or you have subscribed monthly, yearly, whatever it is, right? So we understand the use of static IP also, right? If any application you want to host, application, any website you want to host, right? Or any application, any device access you want to give to someone, right? So its address should be fixed, means IP address should be fixed, IP address should be static. While normal internet user, right? Any website you access, it does not matter whether IP address is dynamic or static. In that case, dynamic IP address is good option, so that anytime you can connect and you'll be able to access the internet. Through DHCP, automatically IP address will be assigned to your computer. Yes, and after that you open the browser and you access the flipkart.com. They understand that your computer understand and communicate using the IP address only. It does not understand domain name. We talk about the concept of DNS, right? In the DNS server, you will have mapping of IP address with a domain name. Yes or no? The homework which have been given to you is you have to read about, or you have to learn about DNS. What are the various record on the DNS server, right? Mapping of IP address with domain name is called as a record, right? Several other record that you have to go through on the DNS, right? So whenever you make any website live, you have to create the DNS record so that your website will be accessible with its domain name. SIEMXPERT.com, Facebook.com, Flipkart.com are the domain name, right? So you have to create a record, so that your website will be accessible using your domain name. Yes or no? So after creating the domain name, once we open the browser, access the facebook.com or flipkart.com, connection will go to the Facebook and you'll get the Facebook page, right? At the end of the session, we plan it out. Now SIEM XPERT has been grown up, right? We have more than 4 lakhs of around 4 lakhs of users, right? We are setting up a new facility. That means we have to design a new network, new physical facility, as well as, since SIEM XPERT is an IT company, so we have to ensure that all the user, means all the computers should be able to communicate each other. In 4 lakhs of user, 4 lakhs of computer that we have, all the users, all the computers should be able to communicate with each other. That is the first requirement. Second requirement is all the users should be able to access the internet, right? For example, let me draw a quick simple architecture. I will tell you what these tools are, what I have, Dear passengers. Okay. So You'll have several computers here. So I'm designing this architecture of my company, right, where I have more than 4 lakhs of user, right? So this user, I have, as I discussed, two objective. One is this: all computers should be able to communicate each other. If the computer want to send file, any user want to send file to other computer, want to have some chat application or any communication, right, should be able to communicate each other, right? And second thing, all the users should be able to access the internet, should be able to connect to the internet. Two objective we have. And you understand that if one computer want to communicate with other computer, they should have unique address, IP address, right? So we have 4 lakhs of user, then 4 lakhs of IP. Then same trend analysis we also done, and we understand that not all the user are going to work at the same time, right? Maximum 2 lakhs of user are connecting to the internet at the same time to make some room, but around 2.5 lakhs of IP address. Like Airtel bought 2.5 lakhs of IP address, but that is their business. They're earning money from IP address, right? By giving the internet connection to the user. But in case of us, we are not going to earn. That is our business. Our users are going to do some other business work, right? So buying 2 lakh 2 and 50 lakhs of 2 lakhs and 50,000 of IP is a huge amount, huge money. Yes or no? Then Aina came back to the picture. Aina said that these 3 range of IPs are free. These 3 range of IP 10.0, 10.0.0.0 slash what? 8, 172.16.0.0 slash 12, right? 192.168.0.0 slash 16, right? And I said that why don't you use this range of IP address, right? This range of IP address is free. See, when you see the thing, for example, when you see like this, for example, 10.0.0.2, for example, this is called as IP address, single IP address. This is the single IP address, right? When you see like that 192.168.0.5, something like that, it's a single IP address. But when you see the slash, right, that means it's not a single IP address, it's a range of IP address we call a subnet. Either you call a network or subnet, right? It's a subnet. That means there are many permutation and combination can be created. This can go up to 255.255.255.255, like that. Get I mean? So this range 10.1, 10 is will start only 10. This can go up to 255, 255, 255. Right? 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 255. Then this can be changed, right? So you can see huge number of combinations can be created. Get I mean? So this is a subnet, means it's a range of IP address. So whenever you see this slash, that means it's a range of IP. Get my so what I'm saying is this is a complete range of IP address, right? Not a single IP address. This is a range of IP address, right? Lower the value, higher the permutation and combination. Higher the value, lower the, means more IP can be created. Highest number of IP can be created using 10 network, right? This we call as 10 network, 172 network, 192 network, right? First octet we go through, we call a 10 network because it's starting from 10. This is 172 network. This is 192 network. That is how we read, right? If you go on the IP addressing class A, class B, class C, right? So then you will understand how to divide this subnet. If you want to learn, you can learn it. But understanding is enough. But if you have time, you can learn what is the different classes of IP address and how to subdivide, how to calculate the IP address in any subnet. There is mathematical calculation in networking, right? So, but if you have knowledge, that's enough. But still, if you want to learn it, you can learn it.
Sorry yes. to interrupt. Is it kind of CIDR, classless interdomain?
You can call it, but we call as subnet. This we call as subnet.
Okay, thank you.
Huh? Means no, this can be changed any network, but since Aina says that this set of IP address is free, maybe within this range, whatever IP address you use, those IP address free for everyone. Get I mean? And this set of, these 3 set of IP address, subnet of IP address, we call as private IPs or internal IPs, right? That means Aina says that these 3 range of IPs we call as private private IP address or internal IP address. What we call as
Sir, is it possible?
As internal IP range, right? Sometimes interview asks what is the range of private IPs, what is the range of internal IPs, right? So these three range of IPs we call as private IP or internal IP. The name itself suggests private or internal, right? Get it, mind? So this INS says that this set of IP are free, anyone can use it. But we learn initially then IP addresses are unique addresses. INA is not your friend only, right? INA is a friend of everyone. That means INA will not give this three range of free IP to you only, right? INA says that anyone can use. But if anyone can use it, right, that means there will be a conflict. Yes or no? If you are using this IP address to go to the internet, other company may also use, other company may also use. INA says that anyone can use. There will be conflict in the internet, right? That's the reason this range of IP we call as private or internal. That means internal to your computer, internal to your network, maybe your lab environment, your company environment, within your company network. You can use this IP address to communicate from one computer to another computer. But you cannot access the internet using this range of IP address. That means if any of the computer having this range of IP address, your computer cannot access the internet directly. These IP address will not be identified over the internet. Get what I'm saying? If you have assigned this, for example, internet range 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.3, 10.0.0.4. If you assign this kind of IP address here, what will happen now? Now this computer can talk to this computer can talk to this computer, right? But all this computer cannot go to the internet because like you have assigned, some other companies also assign, right? If you also go to the internet, these also will go to the internet, conflict will happen. Means address will no more will be the unique address. That is the reason INA says that these set of IP are free reserved for private use only. Internal use only means within the company, within your private network, internal network, you can use this set of IP address, but you can't access the internet. Get my point?
Hello, sir. One question, sir.
Yes.
Actually, sir, private IP is used by the other organization also. Means
everyone is using. Every company is using this IP, this set of IP address. Get my point?
So this is not clash for the other organization IP, private IP.
How will that is what I'm saying, right? You can't access the internet. That is the word. If you access the internet using same IP address, conflict will happen. Yes or no? That is the reason INA says that within your company network only you have to use this IP. You can't go to the internet, conflict will happen. And that is the reason internet do not identify. Internet will not identify any system with this range of IP address. That means you will not be able to connect to the internet. If your system is having this private address, directly you cannot connect to the internet because this set of IP will not be identified over the internet. The name itself says private IP or internal IP.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, sir, these IDs are like IB4 or IB6?
You have to tell. You have
IB4
to tell.
itself. IB4.
IB4, right? So now my first motive got fulfilled now. Yes or no? What was my first objective? What was my first objective? To connect. Actually, my first objective is to enable the communication between all this computer, internal communication, right? My first objective got fulfilled, right? So that these computer should be able to talk to each other. So I have assigned this range of IPs. Now this computer able to talk to this computer able to talk to this computer. Now second objective, all this user, all this computer should be able to communicate to the internet, access the internet, right? Now you understand this private IP address will not be identified over the internet. Yes or no? Then what we need? other than this range of a public IP address, and public IP address is not free. Again, we are standing there only, that place only. I not told this IP address is free. We have assigned, but internal communication can be possible, but we cannot access the internet, right? Then we came to one concept, one more concept that is called as
netting,
right? NAT, that is called as NAT, NAT, and the process of not doing the NAT we call as netting, right? NAT means
Network
address translation.
You can write it. That is called as network address translation. Network address means, what do you mean by network? The meaning suggests network address translation, right? So what do you mean by network address? What we call as network address?
IP address, IP address.
Private address to public address.
Network address translation. Network address means IP address. What is network address? IP address,
IP
right?
address.
So IP address translation, you can see, yes or no? Network address means, if you meaning you go IP address translation, because network address means IP address, right? So network address and translation, what will happen is, it can map one address with another address. That means it can map one IP address with other IP address, right? That we call as netting. And when we map IP address, we call it network address translation. Translate one IP address with other IP. Hindi to English, English to Hindi, right? Yes or no? Means you have translator, right? Hindi to Chinese, Hindi to Japan, Japanese to English, right? That is called translation. Similar word here, network, that is language translation. Here it is network address translation, means IP address translation, right? That means it can map, using this netting, we can map one IP address to another IP address. That is called as network address translation, right? So here now all the system is having private IP address. Yes or no? Now this netting can be configured on the router. I will tell you and just few moment later what is router, but you just understand in my gateway. So whenever you take the internet connection, right? Internet connection will be terminated on the gateway router, right? At your home you have gate, right? Yes or no? Similarly, in the company network or any digital network, you will have a gate that we call as router. And since this router is on gate, we call as gateway router. Get it, mind? This router is on gate. This is a network device. I will tell you, explain you after a few minutes. This router is on gate, so we call as gateway router, right? So whenever you take the internet connection, it will terminate it ideally on the router. Get it, mind? So what we can do is now, as you understand, we have to give the internet connection to all the user, 4 lakhs of user. So at least 2.5 lakhs of IP we have to buy, right? But thanks to the netting concept, right? I need not to buy now 2.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, or even 1000 IP also, 100 IP also we don't have to buy. Even we can buy a single IP address. Single IP address, and we can configure on the router. Get it, mind? Single IP address, we can configure. For example, you buy the IP address 199.0.2.100. This IP address you buy, right? This IP address we call as public IP address. While other range of IP address we call as private IP address, right? So there are again 2 type of IP address, private IPs and public IP address. Private IP is the range of IP address which will be used only for internal use on an internal network, cannot be identified over the internet. While public IP is the IP address using which we can access the internet, which can be identified over the public network. That's the reason called public IP. Public IP, right? Public internet protocol, and public network is internet only. That's the reason those IP you call it public IP. Yes or no?
Sir, this IP is under that static IP or dynamic IP?
Here you have to configure in this case either static or dynamic, anything.
Okay.
At your home, so let me tell you that, one moment. At your home router, right? You have home router, right? home router is getting public IP address. And now you have 10 devices connected using private IP address. Somebody asked initially how we can access at home. 10 people are accessing using the same internet. What IP they are getting, right? So all these 10 computer having getting private IP address through router is having a DHCP. Who is not mute? Avinash. Your router is having net enabled netting, and also it is having DHCP server inbuilt. What happens is by default, once you connect to Wi-Fi, you'll get private IP address. Get it? Automatically using DHCP server. Right? In the router will get public IP address, and once you access the internet, your private IP address will map with the public IP address. And in this case, the public IP address is dynamic, right? Yes or no? So you have the option either go on the login in the router and configure static IP address. If you buy the static IP address, you can configure static IP address on the router. The same IP address router will use, right? Otherwise, time to time, it will release the IP address and get new IP address. There is a release time, 1 day, 2 days, like that. That we can configure. An internet service provider can configure it, right? So this IP address can be private, can be static, or can be dynamic. Anything. Understand? Okay. So you can buy even a single IP address, and configure on the router. Right now, you can create a rule here in the router that all the connection coming from this range of IP address, this range of IP address, this range of IP address, when they access the internet, go to the router. Router should map their private IP address with public IP address. Get it? Mind? That is called as netting. Mapping of one IP address with another IP address is called as netting. Right? So right now, 1 moment, I will ask you to write. Right now, the mapping of private IP address is happening with public IP address. It can be vice versa also, public to private, as well as it can be private to private, or it can be public to public as well. Netting is not private to public only. Get it? Mind? Netting means network address translation, one IP mapping of one IP address to the another IP address, translating one IP address with another IP address. That is called as netting, not private to public always. It can be public to private, it can be private to private, or it can be public to public. Get it? Mind? So now here, I will ask you to write, just hold down. Now here you can see people are accessing private IP address. When they access the internet, right, here the mapping is happening. The private IP will map to the public IP. And when you access the internet, for example, facebook.com, once connection go to facebook.com, facebook.com will not see this IP address. But facebook.com will see this IP address. If 10 computers are accessing Facebook at the same time, Facebook will see there are 10 different connections from same IP address. Right? There is a unique session ID that it has to maintain to understand that sessions are different. Not same user, not same person is accessing Facebook. Right? There are 10 different persons because there are 10 different sessions. Get it? Unique session ID generate when you access. Get it? So, but source IP will be same for all the users who are accessing facebook.com. Understand? Because this IP address will go to the internet, not private IP addresses.
Sir, one more.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, session ID is the IP address, or which one? Session ID.
Session ID means unique session ID. For example, when you access internet, right? One on the header, I'll tell you what is header. Right, along with the data that you are accessing, right, what transferring, along with that there is a unique session ID, means a number, some unique number will generate. Get it? Which will be different for each every connection, through which we can identify it's a separate session. Get it? Here in the router, we can see which person is accessing. Different IP you can see in internal IP, but in the Facebook we'll have same IP only on all the connections. Get it? That is called as netting. So first you write, there are again two type of IP address, private IP address and public IP address. So private
Sir,
IP.
Can I ask a question?
Just write down first, then you ask. Just write down first. Okay. Private IP address. Private IP address are the range of IP address. Private IP addresses are the range of IP addresses IP addresses which can be configured to the computers belongs to internal or private network, internal/private network. To enable the communication which are computer belongs to internal/private network. Get it? Internal/private network, right? Use below are the series of IP addresses, internal IP address. You write below are the subnets of private IP addresses. Below are the subnets of private IP addresses, private/internal IP addresses. Have 10.0.0.0/8 10.0.0.0/8. I'm not at all in front of my screen. I'm sitting in front of my computer. So 10.0.0.0/8, right? And the series is 10.0.0. Sorry, not 10. 172. 172.16. 172.16.0.0/12.
172.16.0.0/12
and 192.168.0.0/16. Right, Likan? So you
So
write below that
repeat again 192.168.
0.0.0/16. Below that you write using private IP address we cannot access in the internet. Using private IP addresses we cannot access the internet. Using private IP addresses we cannot access the internet. Okay. The next is public IP address. Public IP addresses are the range of IP addresses. Public IP addresses are the range of IP addresses using which we can access the internet. Which we can access the internet. Next paragraph you write all other range of IP addresses except private IPs range we call as public IP address. All other IP addresses except except all other IP addresses except private range of IP address we call as public IPs. Got it?
Sir, repeat once.
All other IP addresses except range of private except the range of private IP addresses we call as public IPs, right? Means apart from these three range of private IPs, right? All other IP address, whatever you see, right? That you call as public IP, right? So if you ask you, 1 moment, 10.0.0.5, this is public IP or private IP address?
Private.
169.0.2.20. Is it public or private?
Public.
Public.
192.168.0.5. Is it private or public?
Private.
Private, right? 172.16.0.2. It is private or public?
Private.
Right? So it is very important to understand why, because in the company same thing will happen. In the company also will have netting, and all other computers will have the private IP address only. Get it? And they will have few IP or 2-3 IP address using which they will connect the internet. Get it? So when you see source IP means from where the connection be originated. That computer IP is called a source IP address, right? So if you see the connection between 10.0.0.2, source IP is 10.0.0.2, right? And destination IP address is 197.0.2.100. If source IP is 10.0.0.2 and destination IP is this one, then the communication is inbound, coming from outside to inside or inside to outside. If you see source IP is this one,
Inside to outside.
Inside to outside.
inside to outside, because your internal computer is having internal IP, outside internet IP, right? If you see this communication, what is this source IP? This one, destination is this one. What do you mean by this?
Inside to inside. Internal communication.
This communication is
Internal.
right? Because both are internal IP, means maybe one computer is having 10 dot range of IP and another computer is having ये noise किसकी इतनी ज्यादा mic खराब है आपका? Your mic is not proper. So this range of IP is also internal. This range of IP is also internal, right? That means it's an internal communication. Maybe one system is communicating with the other computer, but both are having different range of private IP address, right? But both are private. That means it's a internal communication. Understand? If you see this kind of communication, source IP address is 199.0.2.100, and this kind of this is source IP, this is destination IP. What do you understand?
Outside to inside.
Outside to
Inside.
If you see this IP address, another is 200.0.2.120, then
Public communication.
what do you mean by this?
Public IP to public IP communication.
So, but
External to external.
but you are seeing this communication on your network, right? So how it is possible? Because any of this IP belongs to your company public IP address, right? Maybe this is your router IP address, or behind that you have firewall which have the public IP address, right? And connection coming from outside to inside only, right? If your company public IP is this one, And outside IP is given as a source. That is connection is from outside the company network. Yes or no? Because this IP belongs to a company public IP address. Understand? So when we work on cyber security in SOC, we have the list of company public IP address, so that we can identify if this kind of connection we see on the logs, we can understand, okay, this is company public IP address. If it is just destination IP address, this is source IP address, means connection coming from outside from this IP address and hitting to the company IP address. It can be our web server IP address, for example, SIEM XPERT.com, hosted in the company itself, but it will have public IP address, right? Otherwise, user will not be able to direct communicate to the private IP address. SIEM I cannot assign private IP address because private IP address cannot be identified over the internet. You know what I'm saying? Private IP address, you can go to the internet, but other people cannot directly connect to your device because netting is happening here, right? But if direct netting is not happening from here to here, they cannot. I think Abhishek Oza, you have a lot of. You do not unmute your mic. Otherwise, fix your mic or do not unmute. Since yesterday, I'm seeing a lot of noise from your end. Okay, either you do not unmute or fix your mic problem. A lot of noise is coming. So what I'm saying?
Sir, I have question.
Yeah, आपका mic ना बहुत खराब है. So first fix your mic, because if I answering your question, if you unmute, I am not able to hear anyone voice. So you fix your mic first. What I was telling? क्या बोल रहा था मैं?
Company's ID.
Company's ID.
Company's IP.
I was telling that when you work on a company, right, you will have list of company's public IP address. I was telling that it cannot happen directly because this private IP cannot be identified over the internet. If your system is having private IP, if somebody wants to connect to your system, he cannot connect because only your system does not have this private IP. There are so many people are using same IP address, cannot be identified. Means this system cannot directly connect to the system until unless netting has been applied. That outside connection should be netted to this IP address. This system definitely we can connect outside because netting is applied. Get a mind? Understand what I'm saying? So if I have some website hosted, SIEMXpert.com, if SIEMXpert.com will assign the server private IP address, will the people able to access SIEMXpert.com? No, right?
No.
In that case, see, for normal internet access, I have bought one IP address, people can access the internet. But you have multiple such applications, SIEMXpert.com, many such applications which I want to give the access to the outside people. So I have to assign private IP or public IP in that case to those applications. Public only, right?
Public IP.
Only then only people will be able to access your application, your website, your web application. Yes or no? So in that case, normal internet user have this IP address configured on router. Apart from that, application also should have the public IP address, right? So you see the communication from outside and inside this IP address. This IP address may belongs to your router, or it may belongs to your firewall, or it may belongs to any of the web application. Yes or no? So if you work on the cyber security SOC, you will have the list of your company public IP addresses. 100, 200, maybe different. Big company have several different applications, so they may have list of IP addresses. Or sometimes you may have range of IP addresses, public IP address your company has bought for several applications, right? And you may have list of applications also, which are public hosting applications, public accessible applications, and what IP has been assigned. So that is not happen sometime, because sometime vice versa happen. Sometime working on the SOC team and you see some kind of suspicious activity happening in this particular IP addresses, right? So and this belongs to your IP address, right? So you may have to block this IP address, right? If you do the vice versa, by mistakenly block this IP address, your application will be blocked, right? Same thing happened with me earlier when I started working. We had the access to the firewall. I'll tell you what is firewall. So if we see any kind of suspicious activity, we have to block the IP address to firewall on the firewall so that connection can stop. Firewall is kind of security guard. I'm just going to explain you in. I was working on one of the case. I was so much occupied in different activities. I see. Kalyani, I'll put you in waiting room. What I was telling is, I was investigating one of the case, right? I was seeing there are a lot of connections coming from 2-3 IP addresses and hitting to our company IP address, public IP addresses, right? It was web public. Those are our company web applications, right? So as an incident response, as an action, we had to block those IP addresses on the firewall. So because we used to get so many incident and that company was product-based company, so we have got the access to the firewall. So whenever we see an incident, we used to block the IP address to the firewall, right? So when we see, I see multiple source IPs and towards multiple destination IPs. So I created in the notepad, right? So what happened is, instead of blocking the outside IP address, by mistakenly it happened, I have blocked the company public IP addresses. It was around 10 o'clock. My shift was 2 to 10. A lot of work that day, and I was on the handover call also. A shift handover call. We have to give the shift handover to next shift guys. So I was working also. I have joined a shift handover call also. In the call I was answering. At the same time, I blocked the IP address. I got a call around 3 o'clock in the midnight. I got a call. I see my phone is ringing and I missed the call. I see there are around more than 20 call missed. My manager called me several times, call from firewall team, call from incident management team. I realized I might have blocked the public IP really, because I was not sure what I have done, but I realized firewall team called me some incident definitely happened with regard to firewall. Then I realized when I was leaving, I blocked some IP address. I recall, I think I have blocked the public IP address. Same thing happened. I called, he said that you have blocked company public IP address application. Since the last 4 hours, the application was completely down. It was one of the big, application, public hosting application, which has to be accessible by all people from USA. The application was down for 4 hours. It's a high severity incident. Incident management here is a bridge call. Every application team, firewall team, network team, everybody was on the call. It's a high severity, huge business impact. I thought my manager is definitely going to scold me or definitely going to take some action. Next day I went, they explained what was the scenario, and they did not say anything in higher management also. See, that is a human error. It's not intentionally someone has blocked. It's a human error. And you'll not believe that same mistake has been repeated after 15 to one more guy. He has also blocked the public IP address. Same thing happened. Again, repeated task. Again, repeatedly, he has also blocked one of the public IP address. Right? So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful in such scenarios. Right? That is the reason not everybody is getting. I was in my initial time actually. I just started my career on that company. It was 1.5 years. I was not very experienced, but since it was a product-based company, so we got access to multiple tools. Right? So it's very important. So this gives the scenario when you're doing some analysis, you will come to know how the communication happening from inside to outside, outside to inside, inside to inside, private to public, public to public, right? Whenever you see public to public, that means connection is from outside or inside to outside, but heading towards your public IP address, maybe a web application IP address. Get your mind? So netting is nothing but the mapping of, you can write it. What is NAT? NAT. NAT stands for?
Sir, I have one question.
Yes.
Network address.
Sir?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
नेटवर्क एड्रेस
सर, ये जो अभी आपने बताया कि जो कंपनी के पब्लिक आईपी एड्रेस से ये इशू हुआ था, तो सर मेरा ये था कि क्या हम इसको सोर्स आईपी में रख सकते हैं सिम के?
Sorry.
Hello.
What we can do?
Sir, can we put it into the source IP, company public IP address, so that we know that it is a source, or we have to put it in the destination IP?
We have to put it nahi. We are not putting it. We see the communication. Okay. It is not something that we are putting. If the communication from outside to inside, right, or public IP belongs to outside IP address and destination IP belongs to our public IP address, that means connection is inbound, outside to inside. If source IP belongs to our public IP address and destination IP belongs to other outside public IP, that means outbound communication, right? That's something that you.
So sir, here the company address is comes under source, na? Source IP.
It's not something. If you see the communication been originated from inside to company and somebody accessing something outside. Then source will be company IP address and outside will be the outside application IP address. When you see the connection, somebody is communicating to your company, then source IP belongs to outside address and destination IP belongs to your company IP address. Get a mind? भैया अभिषेक माइक ठीक करो अपना, ठीक है? अब नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आप तभी पूछना जब माइक ठीक करोगे, because lot of noise.
अभी आ रही है problem?
You are having problem, Abhishek.
Okay, sorry sir.
Lot of is coming. Yes, next.
So now the SIEM XPERT website which has, so that was a static IP address, right?
What?
SIEM XPERT website, for example, particular website has a static address, right?
Right.
So what we use that would be the public, like the general public.
Your voice is also not clear. You are asking SIEM XPERT having SIEM XPERT static. Of course, it should be static IP address. So what is the next question?
So whatever the public has, I mean, what we are using, so that would be the public, right?
Any application which are hosted in the publicly, SIEMXpert.com, Accenture.com, Facebook.com, Insta का Facebook है क्या? Insta है क्या web में? Insta.com, Instagram.com क्या Insta हम ज़्यादा use नहीं करते ना? Instagram.com, right? LinkedIn.com. All the website should have the public IP address. Otherwise, how people will reach?
So for they will be paying for static, but not for public, right?
Static, of course, right? Pizza Hut address cannot be changed. Yes or no? The website address is changed. They have to change the DNS record every time. This particular Facebook.com has been mapped with this particular IP address. Next time IP address change, Facebook.com has been mapped with this particular IP address. Every time they have to change the DNS record, right? So the IP address would not be changed. Sometimes they can change, but again, they have to change in the DNS also mapping with domain name with IP address mapping. They have to change.
Hi, sir. This is Pavan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, in the scenario which you have just explained, where you blocked your IP address, is there any possibility someone else can unblock it, or only you have to unblock it?
No. It's the access. It's access. I had the access to block it, so I blocked it. Anybody can unblock it.
Then why did those many people have called you? That's my question.
They were not aware what happened.
Oh.
Because they were not aware. After that, they identify and they came to know. Means when I called them back, then the issue was resolved that time. They identified that they have done the packet tracing, trace route and everything, where the blocking is actually happening, application level, network level. They were not aware suddenly because firewall team has not done any changes. So they said we have not done any changes, but changes actually happen on the firewall, right? So that is the reason it took time for them to identify. Okay, so
sir, I have a question. Myself, Ashish.
Yes.
So how can we go about investigation a situation where someone committed a crime on Facebook or any other?
This is not a related question for now. This is the higher level question that we covered in the talk. Once we move further, this is not the question at this level. Okay, because you are not mature enough. Just basic concept we are going as of now. I just give an example, a small example. Okay, so now you're written net stand for, later on we'll get the question now. Let's move ahead first. Net
Okay, sir.
For network address translation.
Sir, I have a question regarding net.
1 minute, let's just write the definition first. Network NAT stand for network address translation. It is the process of mapping of one IP address with another IP address. Mapping of one IP address with another IP address. It can be private to private. It can be the translation of private to private. Private to public. Private to public. public to private, public to private, private, or public to public, or public to public. Got it? Last question. Tell.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to know that you said that net could be used from public to public. I'm
Right.
just wondering what's the purpose of public to public? I mean, private to public is understandable, but I don't get the public to public.
I mean that is possibility. I'm telling you, it can be possible if there are some scenarios I have to think about when it has been used, but it is possible. It just translated one IP address can be translated to the IP address, right? That there should be some use case, but it is possible. I mean to say it is possible. You can translate one IP address with other IP address as well. Get in mind?
Okay.
Either private to private, private to public, public to private, or private to private. Get in mind? Specific use case. Yes.
Sorry, yeah, my question is because I mean, you said private to private. In what situation would you be connected to private? Because I understand if you're going on private IP address, you might not be able to connect to the internet. So how would you be able to do that?
Correct. So there are some use cases. There are some use cases that you do even private to private as well. Even private to private as well, right? When there are communication with a different subnet, right? I have seen personally. So, but I am not able to recall the specific use cases for that. But my intention was to explain you that it is possible. Private to private, private to public, public to private, public to public. It is possible because network address translator is just mapping of. Get it? It can be private to private. It can be public to public as well. Get my point? So now you understand, right? Now you got the IP address. Now you got now all the systems are able to connect to the internet. Yes or no? That means my objective got fulfilled. What was my objective? To enable internal communication between all the systems as well as to enable the internet for all the users, right? Now let's understand, we have 4 lakhs of user, right? Now how this 4 lakhs of user means computer will connect to each other? How this 4 lakhs of users are going to connect with each other? Computers are going to connect with each other, right? So you can see we have connected here like this. This kind of scenario you will see. I'm just drawing the small architecture, simple architecture, where you have 3 computer here, 3 computer here. For example, this computer is having one IP address 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.3, or 172.16.0.3, 172. Right, you can see this architecture where you can see 3 computers, right? You can see some kind of device, this one, and this is another device. So what do you think? What is this device we call as?
Switch.
Router.
In the company, you have lakhs of computer, thousand lakhs of computer, right? How these multiple computer connect with each other? This is a communication, right? Then they will be connected through cable, right? Then only they will be able to cable or through wireless, right? But wireless is nothing but they are just eliminated cable, but it does the same work, right? So I'm representing all with the cables only, right? So what happens is They should be able to connect with each other. Then only communication will happen. Yes or no? So you can see how. So there are two devices. There are two devices in your network, right? Which enables you which enables the communication from one device to multiple device, right? These two network device we call as switch and router. There are two networking devices we call as, one is switch and other is router. Switch and router, right? अच्छा ठंडी लगना क्या? Switch and router. So in what cases we have to switch? So when we have to connect multiple computers, right? When one computer wants to communicate with other computer, right? So all the computers, all other computers should be connected with each other, right? So in some case we have to deploy a switch to connect to multiple computer. In some cases we have to deploy the router. So the question is, in what case we deploy the switch and on what case we have to deploy the router, right? The concept is, if two or more computers wants to communicate with each other, if they are the part of same subnet or same network, if two or more computer wants to communicate with each other, if they are the part of same subnet or same network, we call as network or subnet also, same range of IP address, you can say, right? Same network or same subnet, in that case we can deploy the switch. You can see this is 10 network, starting from 10 network, same range, 10 network, 10 network. If two or more computer are the part of same network or same subnet, in order to allow the communication or enable the communication, we can deploy the switch. You can see switch, all are connected to switch, right? So in switch you will have multiple ports. In switch you will have multiple port, right? Here multiple ports, right? All the switch port, if for example if you have connected 10 dot range of IP to one switch port, right? All the switch port you can only connect the same range of IP address, same range of IP address computer. You cannot connect computer with having different range, different subnet. Yes or no? All the ports of your switch will belongs to same network. Get your point? If two or more computers are the part of same network, we can deploy the switch to allow the communication. That means switches within the subnet. Switch means from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, plus switching. Yes or no? So switches within the network or within the subnet, means same network, it will switch from here to here, here to here, here to here, same network. Yes or no? Understand? If you have two or more computer wants to communicate with each other, if those computers are part of same network, same subnet, we can deploy the switch and connect this computer to allow the communication, to enable the communication. Yes or no? That particular device we call as switch. Another device is called as router. Router is a network device, right? So in what cases we deploy the router? If two or more devices are the part of different network or different subnet. One is, for example, 10 range, another is 172 range or some other range, to different range, to different network. If two or more computer, I'm not saying only two, more computers are the part of different network, different subnet. Now, in order to allow the communication, we have to deploy the router. You can see this network, multiple computer, 10 range. This is again a network, multiple computer with a different range. Now, communication cannot happen directly switch to switch, because this switch is part of 172 network, this switch is part of 10 network. Communication cannot happen directly. In this case, what we have to deploy? Router. A router routes between the network, between one network to another network. The router routes between the network, while switch switches within the subnet or within the network. Within the subnet. Yes or no? Within the subnet or within the network, while router routes between the network. Yes or no? You understand the functional use of router? If anybody asks, you understand, right? If same range of IP, same subnet means switch. If different subnet, different network means router. Router route between two network. When there are two network, if you want to allow the communication, you have to deploy the router. So you understand, right?
Yes, sir.
Of course, netting, because router only we enable the netting, right? We can deploy and configure the netting on the router. This switch port can be private and it can be public between one. So all the power port of router will be part of different range. Means from this range, communication to this range of IP. This range to this range. This range to means all the port. If router, if you haven't, for example, if this is the router we denote like this, right? But it won't be like this. It is like this kind of device. Switch and router physical device will look like this only. But how we denote this with symbol icon, we denote like this, right? So if you have multiple port in the router, 1, 2, 3, ना तो बड़ा ऐसे denote कर लेते हैं. If you have a router, 1 port, 2 port, 3 port. In multiple port of router, all will be a part of different IP address, different range of IP. For example, at 199, 992, or 199, for example, public IP 199, this range of IP address. This is 196 dot different. Means all the router port will be different. You cannot, for example, if you have one computer, 10.0.0.2, you cannot connect 10.0.0.3 because this is same range, right? Two router port cannot part of the same network. Cannot be. Communication will not at all happen. Yes or no? A router should only be the port of the router should be part of different port, different network. Understand? Clear? Any confusion? Anybody?
Sir, will switch will assign the IP address automatically, or so manually we need to assign the IPs?
Switch is not going to assign the IP address, right? You are going to assign the IP address to your computer. If you think that, okay, this computer is having this IP address, this computer is having this IP address, this computer is having this IP address, you think all are part of same IP address, then deploy the switch.
Okay.
Get a mind? If you have, okay, this network is having this IP address, this network is having this IP address, you deploy the router.
Okay. So manually we need to give the IP to the systems, right?
Either manually or you may have in DHCP server. Through that same range of IP will be assigned.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Okay.
Understand?
Sir, and one more thing, we have a broadband connection and also connected the router. So we connected to 3 systems. Right. So we get a private IP for those. Correct. We connected to the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi router will provide the will give the will assign the private IPs to the systems, right, which are connected.
Just few minutes back, I have given an example. In home router, you have router means netting also enable as well as DHCP server also. Once you connect to the Wi-Fi, automatically IP has been assigned to your computer, private IP address, right? As well as netting, private to public. Your router will have a public IP address to go to the internet. Get a mind? But your system will be private to public. The system, 10 systems are connecting with the same Wi-Fi, same internet. Right? All system will go with the same public IP address. You go to the company, connect to the company network, right? You check with your system, Google it, what is my IP? What is my IP? See, when you do the IP config, see, there are 2 different IP. When you are part of company network, right now I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, right? If I go and type IP config, my system will get the private IP address. Means what is the IP address? My system. Get a mind?
Okay.
I can check what is the IP address of my system. Of course, my system is having private IP address, part of internal network. But once I search in Google, what is my IP? When I search what is my IP, connection go toward this website, and that website understand your public IP address, you'll get your public IP address, not private.
Okay.
Get a point? Understand? So your router IP address, which is public IP address, will go. Yes.
Sir, switch having only the connecting port, right?
What?
The switch having only connected port, not the assigned the IP.
Yes. If you want to map particular switch port, we can map also. If you want to bind, okay, this particular system should be bind. This particular IP system only will be connected. We can bind also on the switch port. If you're not binding any connection, any system can connect on the port number. For example, right now this system, this IP address, next time other IP address, right? But in switch or router, we can bind a specific IP address. We can define a switch port or router port.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
For example, see, चलो मैं दिखा देता हूँ आपको. Just I will show you. अभी यहाँ पर सोने का आता नहीं है. एक केबल रखी थी क्या? केबल है क्या यहाँ पर? देखना आगे पीछे कहीं केबल रखी थी क्या? एक कनेक्ट नहीं होता है. देखो है क्या में केबल? नहीं है. वहां देख के आओ जरा. वो रूम में, वो वाले रूम में, वो जो रूम है ना बाहर वाले रूम में केबल रखी होगी. कनेक्ट नहीं हो रहा है. कभी कभी कनेक्ट हो जाता है, कभी कनेक्ट नहीं होता. पहले से चालू कर दो तो कनेक्ट होता है. मिली? हाँ लेके आओ. कोई वाईफाई कनेक्ट नहीं होता इसको. Okay. See, I'm sharing my screen. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, Sulabh.
Okay. So you
Yes,
can,
sir.
I can type here CMD, and I type IP config. Okay. You can see my Wi-Fi. I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, right? Wireless network, and this is my IP right now. 192.168.1.101. This is my system IP right now, right? After netting, I'm getting from router. Router doesn't give the private IP address. Yes or no? Now, what is my public IP address? I can go internet and search and type what is my IP. This is our IP address. Get it mind? This is our IP address right now. This is static IP address. This is static IP address. What?
क्या हो गया? अभी तो जा रहे थे भक्के. जा.
बच्चा रोने लगा. हाँ चलो ठीक है. This is our public IP address.
Public IP.
I have assigned this IP address. It's a static IP. I mean, I cannot see here it is a static IP or there is no symptoms whether it's static or dynamic. You cannot check, because if you are using specifically, if I have put my DHCP server, it will be dynamic. If I have assigned to some people, it will be static, right? So if I put in dynamic pool, means DHCP pool, it will become dynamic. So I cannot check whether it is dynamically using or it is static, right? But if you'd see, I type who is domain, who is domain tools, who is domaintools.com, right? Where we can check the IP detail that I belongs to whom. If I would have bought this IP permanently, it would have been seen that okay, this IP belongs to SIEM XPERT, right? But let's see to whom this IP belongs to. I actually bought it from, we have got it from Airtel. Let's see, Airtel has their own name or some different name it is showing. So you can check the IP detail on this website, where OS.domaintools.com, right? Just type the enter. You can get the IP detail to whom it belongs to, which company, which country it belongs to. You can check the IP detail here. It asking you are not robot, because they are not allowing to check multiple entries through a script. That is the reason they are only allowing manually. So you are not robot, you're not using any script. You can see it here. This you can see India can live Bharti Airtel services, right? I bought this IP, I got this IP from Airtel. right? You can see it belongs to Airtel. You can see Airtel broadband, right? So this IP belongs to Airtel. You can see their email ID also. Any specific we can see, we can report to them. Their address you can see, right? Their contact email ID, phone number also you may see sometime. You can see if you want to, report anything, you can see their email number, phone, everything information, right? If you want to see some information, you can access using oisdomaintools.com. You should remember this. I'll tell you in the later part once we cover the SIM part, right? There are many websites where we check the reputation, whether it's blacklisted or not, which company, which country it belongs to. These are very important tools, right? Now, this IP address is my static IP address, right? So I have assigned this IP address to my firewall, same IP address. VPN, we have VPN service enabled on the firewall, so that you can connect to my network, right? So you can see it here. We have firewall, access on this particular. You can see this is our firewall, same IP address. This IP address is our firewall IP address. The public IP address I have configured on the firewall, right? Through firewall, I have another router. Gateway, I have terminated through. I will tell you what is firewall. You don't know so now what is firewall, so I'll tell you. But this is our firewall. After firewall, I have terminated through router. So router, I am getting this IP now. This IP is statically configured on my firewall. Means connection terminated on my firewall directly. And this IP has been configured. So now in this case, you know what happens? The netting is private to private. Somebody was asking when private to private netting is required, right? Now netting is private to private. What happens is, let me tell you. अभी तो दिखा दिया ना आपको, है ना? So let me. Somebody was asking when netting is private to private, right? So let me tell you.
Yes, Sulabh, I have one question.
Yes.
If I move from Airtel to Jio, Jio network, the public IP will be changed or it will be same?
See, if your IP belongs to your company, right? Then Jio network also you can use. Airtel network also you can use. If public IP belongs to your network, means it's in your own name. Get it? You have bought it permanently, then you move it also, you can use anywhere in any internet service provider, right? But if you have, for example, I have subscribed my IP address. This IP address is not permanent, belongs to me, right? If I move from my Airtel to another, either I have to buy the IP address from Airtel, bhaiya aisa karo IP address de do, I can use it somewhere else, right? Or if I have subscribed, I cannot use that IP address. I have to change the IP address with बंद करो ना उसको, बंद कर दो, AC का थोड़ा बाहर जा रहा है फिर. So in that case, IP address will get changed. Understand? Got it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's move ahead. So you understand, right? Router and switch, right? So router and switch are the network device, right? Which enable us to design this network. Router and switch. Understand? So now, using router and switch, we have designed our network. So now let's see what is the scenario now. For example, you have this network. Right now you can see it here, using the router and switches, we have designed the network router. We have designed the network, right? Now, are all the motive got fulfilled, right? That means our internal users are able to go outside. They are able to communicate with each other, this computer, as well as they're able to go outside. We have designed our whole network. Get in mind? The router क्या बोल रहा था मैं? हाँ, switch and router. See, if you heard about layer, OSI layer, which layer our router belongs to, which layer switch belongs to. You write on the router. Sir, router लिखा है आपने? नहीं लिखा, लिखवाया था मैं आपको? नहीं लिखवाया था. You write first. There are two network devices. There are two type of 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 network devices. One is router, one is switch, another is router. One is switch, another is router. Right? So light on switch. If there are two or more, if there are two or more computers, if there are two or more computers, which are the part of same subnet / network, which are the same subnet / network, if two or more computer which is the part of same network / subnet, right, wants to communicate with each other, then we can deploy the switch to enable the communication. Then we can deploy the switch to enable the communication. We can deploy the switch to enable the communication. We can deploy the switch to enable. Understand, right? Switch, right? In next paragraph, you write switch switches within the network. Switch switches within the network. Switch switches within the network, right? Written switch switches within the network / subnet. Switch switches within the network / subnet. Next line you write switch is the layer 2 device as per the OSI model. Switch is the layer 2 device.
Sir, it's layer 3 device.
Layer 2. Switch is the layer 2 device as per the OSI model. Get it mind? Now let's write about the router.
As the what, sorry? Say
Yes.
switch is layer 2 device, as to what?
As per the OSI model. OSI.
Okay.
OSI.
Sir, it belongs to network layer, sir.
OSI. It not data link layer.
Data link.
Switch is the layer 2 device as per the OSI model. OSI stand for
Open system.
Open
Open
system
system connection.
interconnection.
Open system.
हाँ, वो तो टीसीपी तो आपको पता चलेगा, वो तो प्रोटोकॉल है. Open system interconnection, OSI model, right? So switch is layer 2 device as per the OSI model, right? Now let's route about router. If two or more computers belongs to different network / subnet, wants to communicate with each other.
If two or more, so repeat again once.
If two or more computers, sorry, one moment. If two or more computers are the part of different network, and wants to communicate with each other. Two or more computers are the part of different network and wants to communicate with each other. Then we can deploy the router to enable the communication. Somebody asking in the chat which device will collect the logs. All the digital device, network device, security device, servers, application, databases, all the devices, whatever activities are happening, they generate the logs, they record the logs, either switch, router, whatever activity happens.
Enable to, sir?
Enable to allow the communication. Then we have to deploy the router in order to enable the communication. Right? If there are two or more computers wants to communicate with each other, right? And the part of different network, if two or more devices part of different network wants to communicate with each other, in that case, we'll deploy the router to enable the communication. Next paragraph you write, router routes between the network. Router routes between the network, right? And as per the OSI model, router is layer
3
devices. Right? Layer 3 device. As per the OSI model, router is layer 3 device. Sometime interviewer ask, a router is layer 3 device. As per the OSI model, a router is layer 3 device, right? So any device which does, before switch, right? Before router and switch, we have some other device local as hub, bridge, right? Those are end of life. That's why we are not discussing here. You will not see ever hub and switch, hub and bridge, right? Before in switch, we used to use hub. Hub has been replaced because hub is a dumb device, while switch is a very intelligent device. You know what hub used to do? If, for example, if multiple devices are connected to the hub, right? Connect to the hub, for example, this person wants to communicate. I am the exchange kind of. Switch is kind of exchange, right? Switching the traffic from one to another, right? Kind of exchange, right? So in that case, when you used to use hub, when your name is Harshit, right? And your name is Shivam, right? See how switch is working. Switch is intermediate, right? When Harshit wants to talk to Shivam, right? Harshit will come, I will listen. Switch will listen from Harshit silently. And he will go and he will tell on his ears, okay, son, this Harshit wants to talk to you. Means he will not tell other people. There are 100 people here. Switch will not tell to all 100 people. See, the communication has to be done between the Harshit and Shivam, right? Then the communication start from Harshit and should be only tell to the Shivam, not to other people. For other people, it is spam kind of thing, right? Not related. It's a noise for them. Such intelligent device which understand from where the connection is coming and where it has to go. It only forward the communication to particular port only. Yes or no? It's intelligent, but hub was dumb device. It does not have its own mind. So what hub used to do is when Shivam, Harshit will communicate, okay, I want to talk to Shivam, then hub will announce, Bhaiya, who is Shivam? Who is Shivam like this? That means he will tell, he will spread the noise across all the network. Means when the hub receive the communication packet on particular port, it will forward to all its port. Who is Shivam? Who is Shivam? Who is Shivam? And packet will go to all the port, right? Get it? And all the port, again, bandwidth will choke. If such communication happen, multiple communication, forwarding the traffic on all the port number, every computer will receive it and they will discard. Okay, I'm not Shivam. I'm not Shivam. I'm not Shivam. Unnecessarily noise across the whole network, unnecessarily bandwidth utilization. Multiple times. Right? Means hub used to broadcast. When hub received the traffic on particular its port, it used to broadcast on all its port, which unnecessarily create the noise. Every computer check the packet and check it does not belong to me, and they used to discard it. Get a mind? That is the reason hub has been replaced. Hub and bridge has been replaced now, and we have the intelligent devices such as switch and routers. Get a mind? The OSI model, you have written at the end that switch is layer 2 device, while router is layer 3 device, right? As per the OSI model. So what is this OSI model? See, why I'm telling switch is layer 2 device, because switch do the switching, right? Final switching happens based on the MAC ID, MAC address. Means switch, once you connect, I'm not going deep down the networking, right? Because this knowledge itself is enough. But once you connect your device to your switch, right? Switch will learn your MAC address. Okay, this IP and this term is having this particular MAC ID. It will send the ARP request. Call it ARP. It will send the ARP request to learn your MAC address. Means in switch table, right? Switch table will have the MAC address. Okay, this particular port, this is having IP, this MAC address. Final communication is happening based on the MAC address. Get it mind? Understand? While on the router, the final communication are happening based on the IP address. Final communication is happening based on IP. But now there are digital switches and digital routers are coming. That is the reason the standard router, classic switches, which are standard switches, are layer 2. Means because communication, any device which understand MAC address, we call as layer 2 device. Any device understand IP address or communicate using IP address, we call as layer 3 device. But nowadays there are some digital switches are coming, which can do the switching also as well as routing also. Right? Means routing and switching both can be done by the single device. That we call it digital switches. Right? Your Geo fiber cable, you see Geo fiber switch is coming. Initially, when you used to get the internet connection a few years back, internet service provider used to give 2 devices. One is router, another is switch, using which you connect to the cable to your system. They required router also from one network to another network, right? And they required switch also to provide you internal communication. Yes or no? So the different device, layer 2 and layer 3, but nowadays the digital device, Geo fiber optical cable, you have one device only. Airtel also work. Every service provider giving one device only, because those are layer 3 switches. Means we'll do the switching also and we'll do the routing also. Same device. They call layer 3 switch. Similarly, router also are layer 4 nowadays. Layer 3 plus layer 4. That means they can understand IP address also, and they can understand port also and protocol also. I will tell you TCP, UDP ports, right? So they understand. So any device which understand port number, protocols, right, comes under the transport layer. That means layer number 4. You just remember it. I will draw the architecture here. Then you will briefly understand. So understand, right? So digital. So anybody ask you, router belongs to which layer? The router belongs to, you have to tell layer number 3. But
Layer 3.
Right. Standard router belongs to layer 3. But you can use this word but.
Clear, sir.
Is digital routers are coming. So digital router may work on the layer 3 as well as on the layer 4. Similarly, switch belongs to layer 2, but digital switches are working on layer 2 or layer 3, which generally we call a layer 3 switch. When I take a layer 3, when I call as layer 3 switch, that means it is layer 2 and layer 3 both. When I call a layer 4 router, that means it's a layer 3 and layer 4.
The layer 3 switch will understand IP address as well as the MAC address.
Right. So what is OSI model and what is the use of it? Why we are selling OSI model? Is the OSI model is somewhere has been capped in
screen not visual, screen not visual.
There a big model where you can see, okay, this much, this big is the OSI model. Okay, we'll go and see the OSI model. OSI model is just a concept. It's on paper only. It's not that you can, okay, I will buy the OSI model. It's not physically present anywhere, right? It is just a concept. It's on paper only. Understand? Either anybody who has gone through the OSI model has ever thought that somebody or who have just heard about OSI model name, who ever thought that somewhere we have OSI model, right? The word suggests OSI model, and some people might have assumed that OSI model which have been kept somewhere. Abhijit, neutral mic. Okay, so OSI model, what is the use of anybody? Any logic, any idea? What is the use of OSI model?
Data flow के लिए packet flow.
How the communication
how the communication
between
networks.
Set a standard among all the hello.
Right.
For
Yeah.
the communication of different set a standard among all the companies or various networking.
Okay, great. Some people have some idea.
It shows how the network works.
So OSI
happens.
OSI model is has been divided into total 7 layers, right? It's a reference model which defines how the communication happen from source to destination. For example, you access the website, you open the browser, right? Browser comes under application layer. Browser, then browser to cable. Then here, cable to application. For example, you access the facebook.com, right? Yes or no? When you access the facebook.com, right, you correspondingly insert from browser. Then after that, final, it will come towards cable. Then IP address, MAC address, all come in the picture, right? Then final in the cable. Then cable connected to your server, facebook.com server. Then from here, it will connect to the application again, Facebook application. Get in mind? So how communication happens from source to destination, it has been divided in several layers. Generally, it is being used to troubleshoot the problem. In case some problem happen, we can troubleshoot on which layer there is a problem, right? It has been divided in multiple layers, right? So we can understand, problem in network layer. Network layer means IP address, means communication problem. Problem in physical layer means some repeaters, some cables having some problems. Yes or no? Problem in data link layer means some problem, some net device might be switch has the problem. Get what I mean? So to subdivide, to identify the specific issues, we use OSI model, right? It's a reference model. Just it's there in mind, it's there in the concept in the paper, right? So it has been divided how the communication happens from source to destination. When your browser to application, application to application, or source to destination, it has been divided in terms of how many layers? 7 layers, right? I'm not going very deep dive. If you want to learn, you can learn it from Google, YouTube. But if interviewer asks you what is OSI model, you should be able to explain. Right? That's perspective I'm covering here. But this would be homework for you if you understand in detail. Okay, so let me draw it here. So how many total layers? 7, right? So let's write what are those 7 layers. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the first one layer? 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Right? So what is the first layer? What we call as first layer?
Physical layer.
layer.
Physical layer.
Application layer.
Physical layer is layer 1. I have written right layer 1 means physical. And second layer?
Data link layer.
Data link layer.
Data link third?
Network
Network layer.
Network.
Fourth?
Transport layer.
Transport layer. Then session.
Transport. Then?
section layer.
Presentation.
Layer.
Then
application layer.
And application layers.
And application layer. Final.
And then?
Application layer.
Application
layer.
Application. Right? See, you can see it here. First layer is physical layer. Right? But generally communication happen like this. Application to physical and physical to application. Like this and then this. For example, you open the browser, right? Browser falls under the application layer. Get it one? Application, then presentation. In application, you'll open your browser, right? Then presentation layer means if you want to send some data, for example, SSL, right? Encryption, HTTPS, SSL, encrypt the data, right? Encryption, decryption happens under the presentation layer. Then session will get established, which falls under the session layer. Then it has to transport the data using protocol TCP UDP, right? Then I will tell you what is TCP UDP, but it falls under the transport layer, right? Which protocol we have to use to send the data TCP UDP. I will tell you. The network, what is the IP address, where it has to be forward network layer, data link layer, right? Then it will go through the switches and data link. Then finally physical layer, through cables it will go. Repeaters, cable, whatever coming in, right? Then the same thing will be opposite on the application layer. Connection will go through physical layer, through cables, then same it will go towards application. For example, Facebook application, right? So OSI model is the reference model which defines how the communication happen from source to destination in the form of 7 layers, and these are the 7 layers, right? Let's write what is OSI model. OSI,
data transfer.
OSI stand for
Open system interconnection.
Open system interconnection. Open system interconnection, which is the reference model. So it is the reference model. 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 It is the reference model which defines how the communication happens from source to destination, from source to destination. source to destination in the form of 7 layers. How the communication happens from source to destination in the form of 7 layers, right? Just after comma you write OSI model help us to identify and and troubleshoot. Just winding up in 2 minutes. Just to identify and troubleshoot digital communication related issues. Digital communication related issues. Identify and troubleshoot digital communication related issues. Digital communication related issues, right? Then after that, you write 7 layers. Okay. So homework for you for today. Another homework is you have to go through in detail what is OSI model, and also since time is over already, which device belongs to which layer, right? For example, router belongs to layer 3, switch belongs to layer 2, firewall belongs to layer 4, right? Similarly, which device or which process, which application belongs to which layer, that you go through. This is an interview question. Okay, which device comes under which layer, right? So you write all 7 layers. You write all 7 layers, which is written on the board. Then we'll wind up. हाँ, करेक्ट. वो वापस कम्युनिकेशन हो जाता है, जाना और आना एक ही सेशन आईडी रहेगा. नहीं, सेशन आईडी एक ही रहती है, आईपी डिफरेंट हो जाती है ना, प्राइवेट टू पब्लिक हो जाता है, पब्लिक टू प्राइवेट हो रहा है, सेशन आईडी सेम रहेगा. ओके, रिटर्न 7 layers, right? Remember this.
Sir, one question. Sir. Yes. Sir, how to know the problem is the data link layer or physical layer or the network layer? So it will be analyzed by the
belongs to IP address communication belongs to problem. A problem is in an application, we call as application related problem. Problem is in port is blocking on the firewall. Protocol is not allowed. Port is not allowed. We call as problem in a firewall.
No, so where it is so? Where it is so? In the SOC SIEM tool or the?
No, you have to check on login. You have to check. There are troubleshooting issues, right? Do the ping command. If IP is not pinging, communication IP related problem is network related problem. If it is pinging but still communication is not happening, maybe firewall is blocking the port. Firewall falls under layer 4. That means the network transport related problem, right? Port and protocol is not allowed in the firewall, right? We'll talk about the firewall tomorrow. So that is transport problem. Everything is fine, but application is down. Application layer problem. Yes or no? Okay. So guys, we'll wind up for the day. We'll connect tomorrow at the same time. Don't forget to mark your attendance. Okay. So just you have to like and comment on YouTube to mark your attendance, what you have learned in today's session. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
You.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
See you, everybody.